I am Lindsay Riegelsberger, the Director of Operations and Business Development for Streamline Government Contracts. Streamline helps small to mid-sized government contractors who seek experienced, effective support with contract management that reduces risk, increases profits, and enhances reputations. We do this by negotiating teaming agreements, subcontracts, preparing estimates of completion when necessary, and speaking to contracting officers in their own language. We are the proud organizers of Government Contractor Chat, and we thank you for joining us today. Rebecca Link is an AI enthusiast and industry thought leader with over 13 years supporting a variety of GovCons and business development and federal proposals. She is an orals coach and public speaker that enjoys mentoring and training fellow professionals on all things proposals and AI. Without further ado, let's welcome Rebecca Link.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and welcome everybody to AI adoption and implementation. This is so great to be able to blend my two favorite things together: proposals, business development growth, and AI, that I'm sure everybody is hearing lots of things about. If you haven't adopted a platform already or you're thinking about it, hopefully some of this information will help you today to make the best decisions for yourself and your organization as you navigate the waters of LLMs and AI and all that good stuff. I am a solution strategist and AI explorer. I support tech startups and also work for government contracting agencies. And I'm supporting Steampunk, which is an amazing company that does a lot of data exploitation and AI works. Let's jump into it. Now, we could really go down a rabbit hole with all of this information around AI in general, but specifically for the procurement space. So I've tried to kind of break it into some chunks with the most pertinent information that I think that you can take away today and then go and immediately use. So how do you decide on the right tools? I think you guys have a little hand raise or reaction. If you could just give me a reaction. Is anybody feeling just AI fatigue? Are you done, tired of hearing about it? Is it kind of overwhelming? Give me a positive reaction if you have any AI fatigue, because I'm sure we all do. So it's overwhelming. And so deciding on those tools can feel really cumbersome. And then the data that you actually need to be able to leverage these tools in an appropriate and cost-effective way. Can be a challenge, and we'll talk a little bit about what you're going to need to get started. And then deciding who's going to be using this tool. You can't maximize your ROI unless you really have clear roles and identified who your user groups are going to be internally for all of these platforms and tools. And then how do you make this a household name, right? How do you get buy-in across all of your organizations internally and with your teams and really make sure that the tool is becoming part of your overall processes? Okay, so there are tons of tools on the market now, and all of them are similar in many ways, and some stand apart from others. And we'll talk a little bit more about specific tools and needs here in a bit. But there are some key components that you want to take into consideration when deciding on what tool is right for your organization, right? Specific characteristics of tools that you really want to look for is that if you're using it for proposal development or capture management or really any kind of avenue within the business development lifecycle, there's a big difference between like a chat GPT, which kind of pulls from the Internet of Things and gives you this kitchen sink and really predictable response to whatever your prompting is. We have domain aware platforms, which these platform companies that you choose to go with will work with you to tailor and build that essentially becomes the smartest person at your company. It can know all of your past performance. It can know about your customers. You can really feed anything into it that you'd like. And so therefore it knows everything about your entire organization and becomes a really invaluable resource. So you want that domain aware capability. It is nice if there is an answer model. Again, if it is domain aware, when you ask a question and prompt within it, it's going to give you answers based on the information that you have put into the platform. It's not going to be like a chat GPT where it's scouring the Internet of Things to give you a response to your questions. Some platforms do have external facing capabilities. So you do have that kind of Internet of Things availability. Um, and obviously, for proposal writing, having the ability to generate text is really what these platforms are kind of all about as far as proposal stuff goes. You want to make sure that it can get you to a first draft or at least craft you some content, um, solve the problem of the blank page, right? If it has capability to support you with graphics, or at least from a repository standpoint, where you can look through your previous graphics with a keyword search or some other information, those are great resources to have. And then really just having the ability to upload documents and keep your platform up to date with new corporate information and material. So you want to have all of those characteristics within a platform. The things that really differentiate them is the output. You will notice that some platforms perform better than others when it comes to the output that it gives you after you're prompting and requesting information. The ability to really review and manipulate multiple documents and work with the document set, whether you have ingested it into the platform or whether you're just kind of uploading it to work with it for a time being and then removing it from your platform. And we all know that collaboration is key in proposals. So the ability for multiple team members across your organization to be able to go in and work on a project through a single pane of glass. If a platform does not do that, that's going to really make things tricky. I think one of the biggest complaints that I've seen across industry with a lot of this migration to use AI for proposal development is that it essentially asks you in some form or fashion to abandon or leave behind SharePoint, which we're all very comfortable using. And it does provide the ability for multiple users to be in a document together. And so if an AI platform does not have that capability, it can be really, really tough to kind of have that same proposal collaboration that we really need. Templates and formatting. So AI in general is not great. I don't know if anyone is a ChatGPT user, but you can do some formatting by using hashtags to create headings and asterisks to use italic, things like that. But as a platform can give you where it allows you to upload a template that it can help you populate, or it exports out into a certain template, or at least, obviously a Microsoft Word document, preferably in Times New Roman or Arial fonts, because that's the world we live in. Those are really important things and questions you want to ask of your providers to make sure that you're not going to end up with the challenge I've seen is that these platforms will help you with certain things, but then there's an enormous amount of work on the back end that still needs to get done as far as formatting, templatizing, and really just scrubbing up the output and the language that you get from it. You also, I didn't mention, you definitely want to make sure you have a conversation with providers. And I haven't run into this yet, but it's worth noting that any content you create within a platform that you choose to use internally with your organization, any content proposals, so forth, that intellectual property remains yours, and that the vendor or product owner is not going to be using it or holding it for any purposes. So that's a security thing that we'll talk a little bit more about. So hosting and security, right? So a lot of folks really want to have more control over that. So some providers have been offering their platforms to be hosted on premises. So you can ask that question if they allow that. There is also the option for the provider to host as well. It's really a preference. You need to make sure that your platform solely belongs to you. And that it is siloed from any other. Sort of, you think about like from a data center kind of standpoint, right? That you are not co-locating, you're not sharing a space with any other customers, and that the product provider, the vendor, is not using your data to help train other models or their models that they're still building. Because like let's be real, a lot of these AI in general is a fast moving car. And I'm sure you guys have seen every week there's a new update, new rollouts, new functions, new features. That's going to be the same for any vendor you choose to go with, which is great, right? Because they're constantly evolving their platforms and adding new features and listening to their customers about things that they want to see. But that means that it is going to be changing. And you want to make sure that you are not being used as a guinea pig. And just to say out loud, so when it comes to CUI, there are some providers that say that they are able to handle CUI and that they have security that is in line with NIST and CMMI and FISMA and things like that. We're going to see a lot more of that kind of emerging, especially as the government and what administrations taking action against or for, not against. This is a good thing, right? We just need to make sure that our data is being secured. And so you see executive level initiatives to do that. So I think we're going to have a bit of a changing landscape over the next couple of years. And a lot of your vendors and product providers are going to have to be able to meet whatever those requirements that emerge. So definitely ask potential vendors that you're looking to sign up with what their plan is to meet and adhere to any emerging government and requirements. So, and to be clear, classified material. I hate that I have to say this out loud, but we've seen a lot of things in the news and stuff. There's going to be lots of lawsuits and all sorts of things happening with the emergence of AI and people doing things that we would consider unethical. Ethical AI use is incredibly important. You cannot put classified material into any LLM. I would, even if it's domain aware, there is just not security in place yet that I would personally feel comfortable. So please don't ever do that. Maybe one day we'll have something that meets those standards. But and so the last thing here is about considering what a tool is just cost. That's a huge thing, right? If you're a small company, you don't have a large group of users, you don't want to pay, $20,000 for a license. You don't want to get locked into a year-long contract because maybe you haven't even seen, maybe you're still trying to figure out where you're going to use this, how you're going to use it. And so be very careful with what you sign up for. And a lot of providers have different kind of fees and things that they will build in. Like when we talk about data, which is on the next slide, there might be charges where they have you, the time that it takes to do data ingest or just other implementation fees, training fees to come and train, your users and stuff. So these are questions that you really want to ask. You want to ask, also think long term. Let's say you win a couple big contracts and now you're going to build out your business development center and growth organization and hire some new people. If you wanted to add users onto this AI platform, is that going to cost you money? So think long term, and then also ask about any data. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but size, right? Like, is there any limitations on how much you can be putting on this platform before there's extra fees and things like that? So lots of things to take into consideration in hidden costs. All right, so let's jump into the data. To get the best output from large language models, period, is all about the information that you have at the ready. So when we're talking about a domain aware platform, it's really all about what you're able to put into it to, for lack of a better word, kind of train it and model it for your organization. This is a challenge for small businesses who might not have as many write-ups or haven't done as many proposals. There are support and services within the industry, and a good product vendor might even be able to hook you up with some companies that could help you even draft and create new language to ingest into your platform. So basically almost writing like a ghost proposal or just writing corporate capability statements, helping you clean up your past performance repository, and really working with you to get that data set to be as mature as possible. a good vendor is going to care a lot about that and put in the time, because what will happen is if you just ingest a bunch of garbage, then when you sit and you're trying to work on a proposal or use the platform for what you're intending to use it for, you're not going to be really happy with the output and the results it's going to give you. So spend that time up front to make sure that you have a variety of artifacts. Some people want to ask, like, well, how many do I need? Well, it's kind of a blend of both quantity and quality, right? Because you can have 5 different past performance write-ups, for a contract, but if they're all essentially saying the same thing, then you really kind of only have one. So like make sure you have a really good blend and mix. And you should upload a variety of different things. Past experience is great because the ability to be able to prompt and say, hey, like how many contracts do we have at Department of State where we're doing data analytics and blah, blah, blah. And it's able to help scour that information for you. And then you can have that dialogue and be like, okay, well, how many end users did it support and blah, blah, blah. It's really, really great. I love that capability because it saves so much time researching, especially when we're starting to see a lot of proposals now that are phased. And phase one is that past experience exercise, because we are going to see a really big flood of oral presentations and tech challenges. So having a tool like this that can handle a lot of this administrative busy work is really going to be helpful to allow you to focus on, the heavier hitting elements in a proposal. Corporate capabilities, marketing, kudos, accolades, resumes are another super great thing to have as kind of a repository within an AI platform, because again, you can say, hey, how many Salesforce certified architects do we have? Or, things like that. And get those results very quickly instead of calling people on the program, being like, hey, who do you have on program staff that has these certifications? But I also like to encourage people to input the capture elements too, right? It's not just about having reference documents. It's about teaching or being able to get your model to help you even with the persuasive writing as well. And it can't help you with that unless you feed it metrics, proof points, themes, discriminators, and kind of the chunky meat and potatoes of the why you, why us content. So please think about as many different types of artifacts as you can to use as you're trying to work in your platforms. Within the platform, a lot of the providers give you the option to organize this data. So think SharePoint, right? We have our file folder structure systems, and we've got it either laid out by customer or by contract, or maybe we have yearly, 2023, 2024, whatever your organization style and structure is, you should take into consideration when you're building out a potential platform that you're going to be integrating into your business. Structure it similarly, make it easy for people to migrate over to this new platform. Like I said, we're not leaving SharePoint completely behind. Don't worry. I know it's uncomfortable. Change is hard. But so you want to come up with a structure that's going to be easy to navigate for folks and that's going to make sense. And the other thing, please take into consideration is how it's going to scale over time. You're going to win new work, you're going to lose work, you're going to have all sorts of things changing with your business over time. So set it up in a structure that's going to be able to kind of scale with you. Access control is really great if your provider offers the ability to lock down certain folders in certain areas, sort of like we can in SharePoint. That's a huge plus. So that way you can make sure that only the people that really need to be accessing certain information have access. Kind of talked about this a little already. Garbage in, garbage out. Bottom line up front, we talk about prompting smart. Like that's my biggest driver with anyone using AI is it's all about prompting. I will say this, so data, this is a challenge that I've seen in the industry, is that when we're ingesting data, very rarely are proposals written alone. A lot of times, most of the time, we have a teaming situation where you have subcontractors. It is not appropriate to ingest or use subcontractor data in your domain-aware generative AI platform. It's just not. It's going to give you incorrect output, what we call in AI, we call it a hallucination. So if I'm trying to do a past performance write up and I'm like, all right, give me examples of this, that, and the other, or have it write me an overview of our corporate capabilities. And then all of a sudden I see, like, let's say I'm a hamburger company and all of a sudden I see some language about hot dogs in there. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? And I'm like, oh yeah, we teamed with LC for the because I ingested those documents into my platform, or I am using them as artifacts for my writing, it thinks that I'm a hot dog vendor as well. So be careful with that and keep that. This is why you can never just take output from your platform, copy and paste it into your proposal, and hit send to your customer. You have to go through and edit and keep an eye out for any hallucinations, and then also the writing. The writing that most LLMs and domain aware AI platforms produce. It's good, but you still need a human to go through it. It think at least at this point in time, I'm sure it's going to get even better. But we've all seen AI generated output. What right? Those can look real freaky, make us all cringe and pretend like furthermore and robust and breadth, blah, blah, blah. That's a big red flag to know that the content has been generated by AI because that's not how humans talk. So we need to go back through and really clean up. And I really recommend for everyone, go on to Uplimit, go on to SynthMinds AI, go somewhere. Coursera has really good courses. Take an introduction to prompt engineering class and just learn, because the banter, we call it banter, right? That's a AI word. The banter that you end up engaging in to help refine your prompt and the dialogue that you have with these large language models really teaches you how to ask the right questions or how to write a prompt in a way that gets you the best output with the least amount of revisions, right? Because you'll ask something and then it'll give you an answer and you're like, oh, that's not exactly what I was looking for. And so then you like refine it and you end up doing this banter. But if you learn how to prompt smart, then it saves you a lot of time on having to go back and forth. We are always in proposal land. We're always doing new writing, new write-ups, new proposals, new past performances, new data is always being generated within growth organizations. That deserves the home and should be used in your platforms. Don't, if you've got the same thing like SharePoint, right? It's a repository. And if like, oh, that write-up's like from 5 years ago, we probably shouldn't be using that anymore. Same thing applies with these AI platforms. You want to make sure that you're using the latest and greatest from your organization. Stay in touch with your platform provider. They are, as I mentioned, they're constantly updating their platforms as well to add new functions and features. And they should be rolling out information and then training you guys and really helping you understand the changes to those platforms. So those are kind of two different facets, but I look at these platforms as a living environment, right? Constantly changing, should be growing, all good stuff, right? Moving in an upward direction. But these are things you want to take into consideration and keep an eye out for. So this is something that I don't see a lot of organizations thinking about before they're signing these contracts. Everybody wants the shiny new AI tools. They're amazing. I'm one of the biggest champions and advocates for them. But you have to be ready to be like, okay, we have this thing, and now what? Now we're going to go use it. Okay, well, how are we going to use it? Who's going to use it? When are they going to use it? Why are they using it? And I mean, it sounds silly, right? But I don't think that we're putting enough effort and attention into that before we're going and spending money and then coming and trying to integrate this tool in without having a plan in place. So the whole purpose of this presentation is to make sure that you all have that plan and that you know the questions to ask and all that good stuff before we dive in head first. So as you see on this slide, these are just kind of the key players across the business development and growth organization. Proposals are a team sport. We know that. Each of these users should be expected and able to use any AI well, not any, but an AI platform that you choose to bring into your organization. Not all AI platforms offer consoles within their platforms that support each of these user personas very well. Some of them that I call full suite platforms, which we'll talk about at the end, they do, right? There's a place, there's a way for business developers and account managers to access and leverage the tool all the way through the delivery team. So these are questions to ask. How could my team leverage your tool? So with the business development and account management, really helping write up corporate capabilities and overviews, getting briefings together for gate decisions and things like that. And any customer facing material, right? If they're like, hey, I want to put together a presentation about all of our work at blah, blah, blah. So a platform can really support with those front end sales activities. It cannot go and make a relationship with your customer, though. So let's just say that up front and out loud for everybody. And this is why we'll all have jobs, right? But you definitely still need to have that customer intimacy. An AI tool is not going to win a proposal for you. You have got to do the work. So capture managers, again, I love that past performance, being able to go and kind of query against work that we've done, getting metrics and things about our past experience and helping to see if it aligns to a potential opportunity, getting a key personnel labor category kind of mix and staffing stuff together. The dreaded executive summary that no one likes writing, and we all, do a rock, paper, scissors to see who's going to write the executive summary. These tools are great for helping get a first draft of that together. Doing analysis, gap analysis, risk analysis, SWOTs and things like that. Helping you put together even just a template, say, hey, I need to put together a capture plan. And then providing it information with the customer and certain key areas and win themes and strengths that you want it to take into consideration, and then allowing the AI to help you kind of organize your thought, right? We call that an outline and expand prompt, where we give it the parameters of what we're trying to build. It comes up with an outline for us. And then with that outline, we can start populating information. It saves a ton of time. And if you've done a good job with your data ingest and updating your platform and your model with amazing information about your company, it can even start to help you with some of those strengths and even developing win themes too, which I know can be a struggle for some teams. Solution architects, these folks, we don't want to. There's a time and place for AI, and it's not everywhere, right? We still need to have critical thinking. We still people and methodologies, and really having that customacy. That being said, that you create around those things and feed it into your platform, and then start to engage with your platform to flesh out ideas, poke holes in your ideas, and things like that. Storyboards, right? Starting to take a set of requirements and really outline them and make sure you have an approach for each task area. Fantastic resource and tools. Proposal team is where these platforms shine, right? This is where the heavy lift, the RFP is dropped. We're all hustling and bustling on the clock now, and we need to crank out some writing. You have a draft or you have some other, starting documents. Of course, you can certainly do a lot of that work before RFP drop, but let's be real. Sometimes we're against the gun, and this is where having a tool like this at your fingertips is really, really helpful. But the proposal manager and the proposal writers and the proposal team at large is really, I would say, the rocks of the AI world, and really should be doing as much training and learning about these tools as possible, because we're going to take everything that these other people did, right? The BD people, capture people, solution people. And if your platform has great collaboration features, the proposal team can go in there and look at all of that goodness that's been created and start to take it and prompt the LLM to start generating writing against it. Right? Perfect world scenario. That's what this looks like when it's implemented across an organization effectively. The AI I would argue is a tool and also almost a person, right? Because when you're having a kickoff, a proposal manager is doing a kickoff and they're doing writing assignments, they're like, all right, Joe, you've got task one, and Susie, you got task two, and then we're gonna assign task three to blah 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 platform. And it almost becomes a person, right? Obviously, someone's going to need to go and prompt and like get that task written, but it's using the AI because like, okay, this is a transition write up, or this is like our management approach, or this is where we're going to that we know we have a content already. And instead of trying to recreate it or go and copy and paste and do that horrible exercise, we're just going to go into the LLM and be like, hey, go pull all this stuff for me. And it's amazing. And delivery teams, right? I'm always an advocate that our program teams are part of the growth organization because customer satisfaction, you're not going to win your recompetes and you're not going to keep work unless you're performing well. So those delivery people, I would, depending on what level of involvement you can get them to participate and use the platform. Maybe it's somebody on the proposal team that sets a reminder for themselves to go and interview the PMs once a month and say, hey, do you have any new CPARs? Do you have any new accolades? Do you have any new proof points or mission outcomes that we can ingest or put into this platform, or that we can use in our rounds of writing and help the LLM be able to have fresh content. So if they're really great delivery teams, then they can go into the platform themselves and put stuff in there and do that. But right, that is perfect world scenario where all of these users are integrated in and using your platform. This is what like strong ROI looks like. You've spent the money. Now let's get all the right people doing the right things at the right time to maximize that benefit. I already mentioned this. So you have to ask yourselves these questions. You have to align this tool to your different user personas. Maybe you don't have a huge proposal team. Maybe you've got, or BD team. Maybe you've got a proposal manager, a writer, one capture person, like whatever your organization looks like, sit down and be like, okay, who's going to be using this tool? Who do we have? When during that life, and I'll have a little graphic I'll show you here in a second. What is the expected outcome? Like, what am I hoping to see from this person by leveraging this tool? And make sure that they're really trained and understand that that is now part of their job duty and description to be using this product in the following ways. If you have not clearly defined this, your internal teams will not buy in. It has to be almost mandated, and it needs to come from buy-in from the top. And we have a different kind of range of users that I've seen. We have people that are just resistant to, and like I said, change is hard, especially for us type A, process oriented proposal people. We have some people that are just going to dig their heels and they're going to be like, I hate this. I don't want to do it. And that's okay. We have some people that just really struggle with it from a technology standpoint. Like, I don't understand this, and might need some extra training and guidance on how to leverage it. And then you're going to have and everyone in between too. You're going to have your rock star users. You're going to have your super users. And those are the people you're going to want to lean on to become the champions and cheerleaders to help other people get trained and adapted to using these types of tools. And those are great people to help be the liaison with your product vendor about any new releases, updates, things like that. Any technical issues like, like our platform's down or something's not working. So you use those champions and those people that are early and easy adopters as kind of a great person on your team. We're going to start seeing that, I think, as these really begin to infiltrate all of our, organizations. I think there's going to be a need, especially on larger proposal teams, for a dedicated person, right? Some on larger proposal teams, we have dedicated people that are just responsible for managing the repository and like keeping SharePoint up to date. And like when we're done with the proposal, farming out the sections and saving them where they belong and doing those kind of lessons learned and wrap up, closeout activities. Those type of people we're going to see become the kind of admins of the platform, right? That is what we're going for here. That is kind of the utopia of what we want to see our organizations become as we adopt and integrate these tools into our units. So again, there's areas where AI is not the right answer. But a good AI tool should be able to help you with every aspect of the business development lifecycle, if that's what you're looking for. If you're just looking for writing support, then there are platforms that cater more just toward proposal writing. But if you're looking for a full suite vendor, then you want to make sure that it can support all of those user personas and all aspects of the business development lifecycle. What does success look like? So I've made a couple comments. I don't know if you guys were picking up on them about what the perfect world scenario looks like when you have reached you've reached the apex. You've bought the tool, you've trained everybody, you have adoption, it's part of, it's a household name now. And we saw this with cloud, right? So let's just have a little story time real quick. We saw this with cloud, where when cloud first came on the scene, people were like, oh, cloud, everybody would look at the sky and it was a joke or whatever. And then it was like everything was migrating to the cloud. And then the government was like, whoa, you can't migrate our stuff to the cloud. How are you going to make sure that that's safe and secure, which is kind of what's happening right now with all of our data. But now, like, even my 74-year-old mother is like, oh, my photos are in the cloud. Like, it's a household name. And we're going to get there with these AI tools, and it's not going to feel so Wild West like it does right now. But it's a process, and it can feel uncomfortable. So think about long term, what does success look like for your organization? How will you measure that? Ask your product vendor, hey, do you have any back end visibility into where people are spending time, or even by users, right? When someone logs in, you can track and look at who's logged in when and how long they spent and what they did, and like, are there reports and metrics that can be collected that's going to show you, hey, this is working. We chose the right thing for us. Everybody's happy. We've got the numbers to prove it. So how are you going to measure that ROI? And what, let's say you sign a contract for a year. A year from now, what is going to make you re-sign with that product vendor? What's going to keep you? What do you need to see? So think about these things before you go to the altar with any of these companies that are eager for your business. And I sorry, I get a little silly sometimes. Like Neo from the Matrix, there needs to be a champion who will be the keeper of all the AI things. We just talked about that, but find that person on your team who, and it's not somebody that's willing to do it, like, oh yeah, okay. Find the person that really gets AI and gets the benefit and is drinking the Kool-Aid, because they're really going to kind of help the team navigate any of the changes and updates and things like that. They'll become the person that trains new employees and so forth. So that person on your team, someone dove in headfirst into the AI game, was also super strong at proposals, business development, like whatever, just both things. Save your work somewhere else. So if you using AI to your platform to write a proposal or so forth and so on, make sure that once you have a product that you go and you do put it. This is why SharePoint can't go away yet. But always save your work somewhere else. A lot of platforms run on different technology, and if that technology crashes, then your platform goes down. If you're on a deadline and you have all of your work in this AI platform and all of a sudden it goes dark and it's due tomorrow, you're in a pickle. So make sure that you always save a backup somewhere else. This is a graphic, I promised. I am not a graphics girl, but here we are. So as I mentioned, you can see here across the plane here, the straight line is our BD life cycle, right? And then we have our different user personas. We have the account people, the capture people, the proposal people, and the proposal process itself, really, and then delivery and customer service. I'm sorry, capture and solutioning. I need to not forget those gems because they are amazing people. But there's really this bell curve of AI use, right? There's not, you can't solve all of your problems and you cannot do all of your work with AI. So we see at the top here is when that proposal drops, that's when we're hustling. That's when we're going in and making sure we've got content and we're pulling things and writing things and so forth. And then as we start to have a more mature draft, maybe we're just only using it to evaluate what we've put together or just cross check and cross reference what we've done. And we're just using the AI as kind of an evaluation or checkpoint tool at that point and not really generating a whole lot of net new content. So that's my graphic for you. You're welcome. I wanted to drop this in, and I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to breeze through this. But if there's any govies on the phone, um, there are pathways to AI. So a lot of these vendors are, and I'm going to say this lovingly, they are little tech startups. So they're smaller organizations. They are not on contract vehicles. They do not have direct access to the government. Maybe the government's interested in exploring some of these tools and offerings that industry has. And so for the government to access some of these platforms, there are purchase cards that help bypass traditional procurement methods. SBIRs are always great. These are just kind of research. The government's be like, oh, we'd like to explore this. We're not buying anything right now, but it's a really great way for the government to kind of put their hands on some things, get some demos, kind of see what's out there, and converse with those industry experts. I, I didn't know about this, but there's this cool place called Tradewin Solutions Marketplace. And this is after after the procurement cycle has finished. And so this is where vendors and people can go and post videos and information about their products and services. And so it's really already met the compliance of the FAR because all of this has come through a procurement cycle already. And so it's a really rapid acquisition pathway. If you don't know about this, check it out. It's very cool. Obviously, you can, if you're a product vendor, you can try to team with a prime, attach yourself to a company like Steampunk and go to market with them, with the government to get visibility of your tools. And then if you do decide to, sell your soul and come into the contracting world, you can always go after some accessible vehicles one day. I think that's probably not achievable quite yet until we get all the security stuff squared away, but food for thought. All right, so my preferred vendors, I love GovDash and I love Procurement Sciences. They are both full suite options. They are affordable. They will give you what I'll call end to end, meaning the business development lifecycle support for your entire organizations. They're good people, they have good customer service. And if you want a one-stop shop for all your proposal stuff, their consoles from their platforms will really meet pretty much all of your needs. Pwin AI, they're backed by Shipley. They're up and coming. I know that they've been working a lot on their platform, so they're another one that I love to refer. Use Rogue and GovPro AI. Smaller, they offer a little more a la carte and they're a little bit more just writing focused. So if you don't need all the bells and whistles and you just want something to help you crank out some content, those are smaller, better options. There's some really cool companies that I've come across called Sweet Spot and GovMates, and they are just BD focused. So if you're trying to build a pipeline, qualify opportunities, and really kind of get your ducks in a row, they only do that. So I like that because they've differentiated themselves from those, we're going to write a first draft proposal for you. They provide just business intelligence stuff. Obviously, ChatGPT and Claude, I cheat on them. I go back and forth with what my favorite is. I probably use Chat the most. I use the paid model for 4.0. It's worth it. It's like $20 a month, but it has memory now. And again, we cannot put corporate proprietary material or government classified material or anything that would be considered unethical in these open models, please and thank you. However, let's say I'm trying to research a government customer like USCIS and like I want to know, what they've been up to and or whatever. We're running out of time, so I won't be too verbose. I love being able to go and use it for research. Anything that is open and available on the Internet of Things, I can go ask. Maybe I'm looking to team with, I need somebody that does DevSecOps and I need to bring them on my team for an upcoming procurement. And I'm like, what are some, local government contractors in the Northern Virginia area that do X, Y, and Z? And I was like, blah. And then I can even do that banter, dig deeper and ask them lots of questions. Are they SD via so you can use those for research purposes. Definitely verify your information. Don't trust everything that any LLM ever gives you. You need to trust but verify because there is the potential for hallucinations. Um, if you haven't met Samantha yet, I provided a link down here. I built a custom GPT in ChatGPT that is accessible to everybody now that ChatGPT is free. And so she is trained is a loose word. I told her to take into consideration that is Shipley based and it's a lot more prompting than that, but that's the gist of it. So if you are looking to improve your processes, your practices, or learn new ways of running proposals and managing your business development organizations, Samantha is your go-to girl. She's named after my sister, if anyone's wondering where Samantha came from. So check Sam out. I also included some sample prompts, and these are amazing ideas to create your own GPT also. So if you're interested in creating your own, the benefit of creating a GPT is it's a lot of prompting up front where you're telling the LLM what you want, the parameters of what you're trying to accomplish. And then once you've created it, you can prompt against it. It's almost like creating your own little domain aware kind of area where you're training it on a specific topic or a specific thing. And then anytime you go back in there, you're engaging with it and interacting with it about that certain topic or thing. And it's really helpful if you do a lot of repetitive, like if you work in proposals, it's really helpful if you do, repetitive things. You could build one for gardening. You could build one for food and nutrition. You can literally build a GPT for anything. But if you are doing um, this stuff, it's kind of a cool idea to build a GPT to help you answer these questions a lot faster in the future. But these are sample prompts that you can use. Obviously, these will lean a little bit more toward a domain aware that you would use like on a company platform that would tell you information about your company and your organization. But you can ask ChatGPT to create matrices and help you come up with a project timeline and stuff like that. Again, no proprietary, no classified information allowed. So with all of this information, which is a lot, there is support available to you. Have some exploratory calls with people like me or other people in the industry, your product vendors and things like that. Educate yourselves, get some options, right? You're going to want to interview a number of different companies and platforms and offerings that are out there before you go into, because they're all going to want to demo you, right? They're going to be like, oh, let's set up a 30-minute demo and we'll show you our platform. And they're doing that same demo for literally everyone else. They could probably create an AI robot to just do those demos for them because it's the same thing. A good vendor will do some research about you and your organization and come to that demo knowing a little something about you and what your needs might be. And if they don't, then that's a red flag, right? You want someone that's going to care a little bit more about what your needs are and help you meet them and not just try to sell you something. Okay. Don't get sold. So have some options, prepare for your demos, have questions, do your homework too about that platform and what it does and what it doesn't do, and identify any red flags for you that you want to ask these people about. And then you want to compare, right? Maybe have ChatGPT build you a little matrix about how you can compare. Maybe ask ChatGPT, hey, what are some questions I should ask an AI product vendor before I sign a contract with them? Um, talk to your vendors about ongoing training and support with adoption. You have a responsibility as a business organization to have a plan to integrate and get this adopted into your organization, and don't think it's going to happen by itself. But your vendor should also be able to offer some support and training as well. And if they don't, then you need to maybe look externally. There are great resources in our industry who are willing to help teach and train, having webinars like this and resources that are available to you as you navigate these big business decisions that are going to be with us now, right? The train's left the station. Everybody is getting AI. Don't get left behind, but make smart decisions, learn how to prompt smart, and get your people using it to get that ROI. Consider corporate-wide introduction to AI. Also important to know how these analytics and machine learning information. So consider doing corporate-wide training on just intro to AI stuff, and absolutely prompt engineering, because it's all about prompting smart, garbage in, garbage out. I love SynthMinds AI. They are a leader in AI education and training. They offer affordable and accessible options through UpLimit. I also love Coursera. They've got some really great, intro kind of classes. So yeah, and I will now thank you for your time, and I'll take some questions and turn it back over to Lindsay. So I hope everybody got something from that. I know I talk fast, but it's a lot of information.
That was excellent, Rebecca. Thanks so much. Learned a ton and just really insightful. Really appreciate you. Very well done. Okay, everyone. So feel free if you'd like to come on camera. If you'd like to ask Rebecca some questions at this time. For a new GovCon user, for any of our community, what would you recommend for them to do to get started? Trainings, apps, where would you say to start first? I know you had mentioned some of these, but what should their absolute first be? And any trainings that you would recommend, anything like that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think it really depends on the organization, right? You have to really identify what your needs are, have a strong value proposition, and get leadership, to buy into getting a new tool for your entire growth organization. So how are you going to sell that to them? How are you going to justify that? And I think by answering that question will force you to really sit down and look at, okay, like the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who's going to use this? When are they going to use it? Why are they going to use it? In what ways are they going to use it? And what is our, expected and desired outcome? And then how are we going to track those KPIs and the success of this purchase and this integration over time? And once you've answered those questions, I think it becomes a little bit clearer about what kind of platform to go with. And then you can start doing your research and setting up those demos we talked about. But you've got to answer those internal questions first.
Okay, sounds good. Next, we have a question from Daniel. Given that many organizations are using AI to generate proposals, what are the chances that there will be significant similarities in content and language across these proposals?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we talked about domain aware generative AI. So I think, all of the organizations are using these AI tools, but they're company specific. So I don't think that there's going to be too much overlap with that. I think a good editor, as we talked about, has to go through that content and make sure you get rid of all those fluffy AI words and the unnecessary language. So hopefully, the short answer is like, hopefully not a lot of uniformity. But I will say, I think we can expect the government to start using AI as well for their evaluation processes. And I go back to what I initially said about how we are starting to see a lot of phased proposal responses, where phase one is past experience, corporate capabilities, or like corporate information, like your dollar size, your, employees, things like that, that are more check the box activities. And so we can probably assume over the next X amount of time that the government's going to feed your proposal into a similar AI tool, and it's going to be a pass fail, or it's going to be a conflict. We see confidence ratings a lot already. And that's going to be just kind of get your foot in the door in the procurement cycle. And then you're going to be asked to do a demonstration or a challenge or an oral presentation because the government's not going to want to see all of these AI written proposals. So again, AI has a time and place, and the government knows that too. So I think we're going to start to see some trends in that way. But for the most part, it does a pretty good job, I would say, of organic writing and a good platform. You can test this out if you currently have an AI platform. You can run the same prompt a few different times, and it should give you, a bit of a different write up each time. If it's regurgitating the same write up when you're prompting a question or asking it to write you, a segment or something, then A, you don't have enough good data that it's pulling from, or B, your platform sucks.
Okay, understood. Um, Next, what about cybersecurity implications? What have you heard or seen regarding cybersecurity and AI?
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I kind of alluded a little bit to that. So right now, there's an executive, you've seen the executive orders come out. And then there's also I think it's called the AIXCC, the AI Cybersecurity Challenge. It's a 2-year challenge. I believe next year are present at DEF CON. And I don't know if DEF CON is in what do you call it? Las Vegas or DC next year, but I believe it's $7 billion in prize money for security teams to come together and build security models to help implement and put on these giant platforms and companies that all of our data is currently flowing around in. So
Wow.
there are things that are being done. That's why I think the next couple of years is going to be really interesting. We might even see, even in proposals, I wonder if we're going to see some sort of disclaimer. And a buddy of mine said they thought they already saw something that you need to acknowledge whether or not you've used AI in your response, or some sort of watermarking or other identification. So I don't have the answers right now. Some of it's speculation. But the one thing I can tell you for certain is that there's going to be a lot of change. And that's why it's really good to talk to your vendors about how they're planning to navigate those changes to make sure that their platforms are not going to become obsolete as time goes on.
Okay, sounds good. I know we're at the end of our hour here. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, give me one more.
Okay. What concerns or roadblocks have you seen regarding teams, GovCon teams in particular, implementing AI, and how have you seen or helped them overcome them?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to there was a big rush and a lot of people went and they were like, oh my gosh, we want this. And they bought it and they got it and they signed contracts and then they came and they're like, so we got. And everyone's like, I hate this. Or like, I don't want to, I don't want to use this. And so we kind of put the cart before the horse, as we all tend to do sometimes. But like, if you haven't taken the plunge yet, or maybe you have, and you're like, oh, like this is not going the way that we hoped that it would, pause. You have got to do internal teaching and training. You need to identify your user personas. You need to identify the expectations that you have for each of them to be leveraging these tools and platforms, and you need to enforce that. You also need to provide additional education and training in AI in general, prompt engineering. I mean, you're asking somebody, you're throwing someone into a swimming pool before you ask if they know how to swim. And that's not fair. And you're going to get pushback and you're going to not get the ROI from these platforms unless you really, again, and identify that champion on your team, that person that gets it and that wants it, and use them to help, poison the well so everyone else starts drinking the AI water as well. But really, you got to get that buy-in, and it has to come from all different areas of the company.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Rebecca. That was an excellent presentation. Now let's take a look at what's coming up next. Our government contractor chat complimentary Zoom webinar series will be the third Wednesday of each month, excluding holidays from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be taking a break for the month of August and resuming our regular schedule thereafter. Wednesday, September 18th, we will have Mike Palnazzi, Chief Sales Officer at Cavu Advisors, presenting Investing in Your Accounting Infrastructure and Why It's Important. Wednesday, October 16th, we will have Ben Madden, Principal at HR Action, presenting Talent Lifecycle and Where We See Breaks. Wednesday, January 15th, we will have Diane Menser, Business Operations and COO Advisor, presenting Powerful Past Performance. To register for these webinars, you can scan the QR code on the screen now. Thank you for your time today. We hope to see you in September.